Good morning. So, last class we have discussed the composition of the blood. So, you know that blood which is composed of the plasma and the formed elements. So, last class we have discussed in detail about the plasma, its composition. So, today, this session, so we are going to discuss the formed elements. You know that blood it is composed of the plasma and formed elements. Today, the formed elements, we are going to discuss in detail about the formed elements. So, what are the formed elements? So, the RBC, WBC and the platelets. So, these are commonly called formed elements: RBC, WBC, platelets. So, which are called formed elements of the blood? Maybe the question. Okay, the RBC, WBC and platelets. So, which constitute the formed elements. So, now let us going to discuss in detail about each and every one. Okay, each and every one. The first is the RBC, red blood corpuscles or the erythrocytes. RBC, red blood corpuscles or erythrocytes. So, when compared the formed elements, that is the WBC and platelets, so that the number is abundant. The number is abundant. So, listen, per cubic millimeter in a healthy man, per cubic millimeter about 5 to 5.5 million, 5 to 5.5 million RBCs were there per cubic millimeter. That blood of the normal human per cubic millimeter contains. So, that is why it is most abundant when compared to other formed elements, and women 4.5 to 5 million per cubic millimeter, that RBC, this is very important, it is most abundant, that RBC per cubic millimeter, that a male contain 5 to 5.5 million and a female contain 4.5 to 5 million. It is a MCQ, that point of view important, and which is very small, and the diameter about 7 micrometer. So, next MCQ, it is small and the diameter is about the 7 micrometer. You know that is it is called red blood cells because of the color it is called so. Red blood corpuscles. Why it is red? Because of the presence of a pigment called hemoglobin. Why RBC is red? Why RBC is red? Red blood corpuscles because of the presence of a pigment called hemoglobin. Okay, that is why that RBC is red in color. RBC is red in color. So, that red blood corpuscles is red in color because of the presence of the pigment called hemoglobin. So, already we have discussed what is the function of the hemoglobin. It transport of the respiratory gases, right? It is a transport of the respiratory gases, and its shape is biconcave and disc-like structure. Its shape is biconcave and disc-like structure, disc shaped. Yeah, see, listen, it is a disc shaped and biconcave. That is, if you see, it will be like this, that is a biconcave and disc-like structure. Why it is a biconcave? So, when there is a inpushing, that is a concave nature, so that increase the surface area. So, if it is straight, that area will be less, and if it is going inside, so that is that area increases. Straight road la poringa bend panni poringa, appo length is more. So, so in order to increase see how the nature, in order to increase the surface area, it is that shape is biconcave and disc-like structure, so because if the surface area is more, that more oxygen diffuses and that goes inside the RBC. For that purpose, okay, it is biconcave and disc-like structures. And next is that is when it is young, it possesses nucleus. When it is matured, that matured RBC divide of the nucleus, endoplasmic reticulum, mitochondria, ribosomes, that cellular inclusions are absent. It is non-nucleated. It is divide of the RBCs or divide of the nucleus and other cytoplasmic organelles. Why? Yeah, to accommodate the more hemoglobin. To accommodate more hemoglobin. If more hemoglobin, more oxygen can be transported. If, listen, this is cell. So this is a cell. So imagine here it is that this is the nucleus and the endoplasmic reticulum, that mitochondria, etc. or there in the cell. So imagine if these are all present inside the cell that that occupy the much space. Okay, so that so these organelles which are absent in case of RBC, no nucleus and other. So that is there is more space is there. So that place is occupied by the RBC, that is the hemoglobin molecule. So in order to accommodate more hemoglobin, that cellular organelles are absent. This is one of the hard questions. That's why this is higher order thinking. Why that cellular organelles like nucleus, mitochondria, ribosomes and endoplasmic reticulum are absent? Why? What is the reason? Okay, what is the significance? It accommodates more hemoglobin. If more hemoglobin, that maximizes the oxygen transportation. For that purpose, it is a divide of the nucleus and other cytoplasmic organelles, right? Okay, super. And this is very important. The average lifespan of the RBC is 120 days. RBC, average lifespan is 120 days. After 120 days, it will dies. It will dies, and which are buried in the spleen, liver and spleen. That's why these are called graveyard or cemetery for RBC. Okay, so that its lifespan of the RBC is 120 days. After 120 days, so which are taken to the spleen and liver where it is buried and decomposed. And once again, after that is decomposition, that iron, okay, that iron molecules that is come to the bone marrow for reuse. With the help of that, with the, using that iron molecules, that new RBCs are produced in the bone marrow. Since the lifespan is short, that is 120 days, that new RBCs are produced. Okay, and which is called graveyard or cemetery for RBCs, that spleen and liver. Why? It is after that 120 days which are buried there. Okay, that's why that spleen is called the cemetery or the graveyard for RBC. Cemetery or the graveyard. Lifespan of the RBC is 120 days. And next is erythropoietin. Already we have discussed this erythropoietin and acute mountain sickness. If oxygen deficiency occurs, so this information goes to the brain and a hormone that is called erythropoietin is secreted because which secrete kidney, so that that hormone induce the formation of the new RBCs by the bone marrow. So now the RBC count automatically increases, that compensate the that oxygen, less percentage of the oxygen, right? That is called erythropoietin. It is a hormone secreted when lowering the oxygen. When if the oxygen percentage is low, it is usually occurs when the elevated, that people, those who are living in the elevated region, that is 4,000 feet, okay, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 feet above the ground level, that is mountains, this type of that problem, that is acute mountain sickness. At that time this hormone is produced by the kidney that alter that number of RBCs, that is all. And next is the hematocrit, that is hematocrit means that ratio of the RBC to the blood plasma. Usually this is the clinically used terminology, that is hematocrit, that is packed cell volume, that is that ratio to the plasma and the blood plasma and the RBC, that ratio is called hematocrit, that is used for the clinical purpose, right. The next formed element, that is all, RBC is over. The next formed element is the WBC, white blood cells or white blood corpuscles, and it is leukocytes. It is colorless since no hemoglobin, that is that pigment, no absence of the hemoglobin, that is why it is colorless, it is white. So that it is called white blood cells or leukocytes. White blood cells, white blood corpuscles or leukocytes, all are same. This is one of the formed elements, that WBC. And listen, it is colorless and amoeboid. See, listen, that shape it is not regular, it changes so that it moves freely through the gaps, and it is colorless, amoeboid and nucleated, not like the RBC which is nucleated, that is nucleus is present and no hemoglobin. And what is the count? 6,000 to 8,000 per cubic millimeter. Okay, 6,000 to 8,000 per cubic millimeter. See, compare the number with the RBC, 5 to 5.5 million RBCs per cubic. Here only the thousands, that number is less, right, when compared to the RBC. And types, this is very important, 5 marks question, 2 marks, 3 marks or MCQ. So far in your lower classes you might have studied WBC, which is called police force, WBC police force, that protect the body from the invading microbes. That much I have studied. Then this is the higher level, that WBC is further divided into types. What are the neutrophils, eosinophil, basophil, lymphocytes and monocytes. 5 types further classified into neutrophil, eosinophil, basophil, lymphocytes and monocytes. There are 5 types of the WBCs are there. That 5 types of WBC further divided into 2 categories. They are the granulocytes and agranulocytes. And what is the granulocytes? It is a cell, it is nothing but cell. RBC, WBC, platelets, all are the cells. That cell means there is a cell membrane, see, and the nucleus, cytoplasm, peripheral cytoplasm are there. And the granules, they are based on the presence or absence of the granules in the cytoplasm, that cells are divided into granulocytes. Cyte means cell. If the cells are found in the cytoplasm, that are called granulocyte. If no, A means absent, agranulocytes, no cytoplasmic granules. That 5 types I said, that is neutrophil, eosinophil, basophil, these 3 comes under the granulocyte. See here, see that cell, cytoplasm contains granules, that cytoplasm contains, see this diagram, okay, the cytoplasm contains granules, see, that cytoplasm contains granules, pigments. That is why these neutrophil, eosinophil, basophil, these comes under the granulocyte, because the cytoplasmic granules are there. And agranulocytes, see these that monocytes and lymphocytes here, that is no, that cytoplasm is clear, no pigments, granules are seen. No granules are seen. That is why that are called agranulocytes. What are granulocytes? What are agranulocytes? Neutrophil, eosinophil, basophil. So these are the granulocyte and lymphocyte and monocyte. எப்படி சார் ஞாபகம் வச்சுக்கிறது எனக்கு புரியலையே சார், நீங்க சொல்லிட்டீங்க, இப்படி கேட்பாங்க. Among the following which are agranulocytes, among the following which are not the A granulocytes, odd man out, that pattern question, it may be. Listen, alphabetically L after M, A, B, C, D alphabetically L after M, lymphocyte L, monocyte M, L, M. Okay, that after that is that successive letters in the alphabets, L, M, A granulocytes, that's all. So here what is that neutrophil NEB, NEB, nib, nib, pen nib, ஞாபகம் வச்சுக்கோங்க, nib, nib, NEB, nib, nib neutrophil, eosinophil and basophil, இவங்க வந்து granulocytes, இவங்க granulocytes, nib, pen nib னா வச்சுக்கோங்க, nib, nib னு ஞாபகம் வச்சுக்கோங்க, nib, N I க்கு பதிலா nib னு nib, ஸ்பெல்லிங் தப்பா எழுதுங்க, nib அப்படின்னா neutrophil, eosinophil, basophil, அவங்கெல்லாம் granulocytes வருவாங்க, புரியுதுங்களா? அவங்க granulocyte. A granulocytes வந்து என்னது? What are the LM? Easy memory technique, டக்குன்னு நீங்க recall பண்ணிக்கலாம், that's all. The types of WBC, that is granulocytes and A granulocytes. This is the two types of the WBC. So that are based on the that presence or absence of the cytoplasmic granules that are divided into granulocyte and A granulocytes. A granulocytes. Okay, and next is, so we are going to discuss one by one in detail. In granulocytes, nib, neutrophils, eosinophil and basophil. First one is the neutrophils. This is also called polymorphonuclear neutrophils. That other name, it is called PMN, polymorphonuclear, PMN, polymorphonuclear neutrophils. Yes sir, அப்படினு வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா, listen, poly means many, so that nucleus that is which is many lobed, that is poly, many lobed nucleus. Okay, 3 or 4 lobes, polymorpho, and which are connected with, so listen, this is cell, so this is cell, and here that the nucleus is 2 or 3 lobes, not single, and which are interconnected by a delicate thread like, this is nucleus, okay. Don't consider the 3 nucleus, that is one nucleus which is lobed, that's why it is a polymorpho, lobed, with 3 to 4 lobes are there, which are interconnected with a delicate thread-like structure. Very important. That is the characteristic feature of the neutrophils. Lobed, that is 3 to 4 lobed, and that lobes are connected with a delicate, this is very important, delicate thread. Delicate means thin thread that connects, delicate thread. And what is the percentage? 60 to 65%. Actually, this is the more in number. So when compare the 5 types of the WBC, this is the highest percentage. Very important. This is the MCQ. 60 to 65% of the total WBC, other cells, which is phagocytic in nature. Phagocytic cell that engulf the pathogen. When any pathogen enters, that engulf, swallow பண்ணிடும். நம்ம கிட்ட lizard இருக்கும், ஏதாவது இன்செக்ட் வந்தா என்ன பண்ணும், டபக்குன்னு புடிச்சு சாப்பிடும். சரிங்களா? அந்த மாதிரி என்ன பண்ணுவாங்க இவங்க, that microbes, any disease producing microbes enters, that engulf the microbes. Thus the prevented, we were prevented from the attack of the diseases that phagocytic in nature, and which are more around the infected area. அப்ப எனக்கு ஏதாவது ஒரு wound இருக்குன்னு வச்சுங்களேன், அது என்ன, அது சரௌண்டிங் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கும். ஏன்னா என்ன பண்ணும், because through that wound microbes can enter, okay, may enter and infect my body. So in order to catch that is surrounding that is that area, okay, that is wound, more number of neutrophils are there. Okay, that neutrophils, which is called polymorphonuclear neutrophils, 60 to 65%. 3 to 4 lobes which are interconnected by delicate thread. That is important. And next is the eosinophil. Eosinophil, that second that comes under the granulocyte. Eosinophil, it is a bilobed nucleus. Listen, bilobed nucleus which are connected by a thin strand, that connects. Okay, large sized, see, that is a large sized eosinophils which are a large size. The size is a large. Okay, and what is the percentage? 2 to 3%. 2 to 3%. That is the bilobed nucleus, large in size. It is non-phagocytic, very important. That is non-phagocytic. Neutrophil phagocytic nu paathom, eosinophil non-phagocytic. Okay, and listen, this cell increases. நம்ம அதான் blood test எல்லாம் பண்றாங்க. எப்போது அது அந்த இந்த ரேஷியோ தான் இருக்கும். நார்மலா 2 to 3% இருக்கும். Sometimes 5%, 6%, 10% எப்போ போகும்? Then parasitic infections and allergic reactions. Any parasitic infection and allergy, this number increases. சில பேர் வந்து பாருங்க, அலர்ஜின்னா என்னது? அலர்ஜின்னா என்ன சார்? அரிக்கிறது, சொரிகிறதா சார்? நோ, that is symptoms for allergy. அலர்ஜின்னா என்னது? exaggerated immune response. next year டீடைலா படிக்க போறீங்க. exaggerated immune response. ஏதாவது ஒரு சப்ஸ்டன்ஸ் வந்திருக்கும், உடனே அதை வந்து என்ன பண்ணும்? உங்க பாடி இம்யூன் சிஸ்டம் வந்து என்ன பண்ணும்? அதுக்கு exaggerated, ரொம்ப ஓவர் ஆக்ட் பண்ணும். புரியுதுங்களா? ஸோ அதுதான் தட் இஸ் அலர்ஜின்னு சொல்றோம். அந்த டைம்ல வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா இந்த நம்பர் வில் பி மோர். ஈஸ்னோஃபிலியா அப்படின்னு சொல்லுவாங்க. ஈஸ்னோஃபில் கவுண்ட் வில் பி மோர். நார்மலாக கொஞ்சம் ஒரு பனி பெஞ்சதுன்னா அந்த வின்டர் சீசனில் சில பேர் க்ரானிக்காக வந்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா அந்த காஃப் ஸ்னீசிங்லாம் இருக்கும். அதெல்லாம் பிகாஸ் ஆஃப் திஸ் இன்க்ரீசிங் தி நம்பர் ஆஃப் தி ஈஸ்னோஃபில் இன் தி பிளட். அதான் ஈஸ்னோஃபில் 2 to 3%, non-phagocytic, large bilobed nucleus interconnected by the thin strand. During the allergic reactions and parasitic, any parasitic infections, this number increases. Then next is the basophil. Then third type of the granulocyte is the basophil. 0.5 to 1%, least number when compared to the other two, neutrophil and eosinophil. This is very less, 0.5 to 1%. 0.5 to 1%. Listen, it comes under granulocytes. Listen, this is the basophil, the cytoplasmic granules. It is comes under granulocytes. That granules are large and few. Large and few. That is important. Though it is a granule comes under the granulocyte, the granules are larger. See, பாருங்க, பெருசா இருக்கு பாருங்க. Larger and less in number. Okay, and nucleus, listen, nucleus is large, constricted. Constricted means nucleus இருக்கும், இங்க பாருங்க nucleus இருக்கும், அது வந்து constrictions இருக்கும். இந்த மாதிரி வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா constrictions இருக்கும். constrictionsனா ஒரு inpushing இருக்கும், but not separated and connected by the delicate the thread like structures. It is constricted, that constricted, not connected by the delicate thread like structure, delicate thread. And this basophil secretes, very important, the substances like heparin, serotonin and histamine. Tambi, important, they secrete chemicals like heparin, serotonin and histamines. என்ன சார், ஏன் செக்ரீட் பண்ணும்? ஹெப்பாரின் என்ன பண்ணுது? செரோட்டோனின் என்ன பண்ணுது? ஹிஸ்டமின் என்ன பண்ணுது? ஹெப்பாரின் anti-coagulating substance that prevent the clotting of the blood when inside the intact blood vessel. When the blood vessel is intact, that blood should not clot. Breakage another, when ooze out, it should clot. Normal intact blood vessel, that blood it should not clot. அப்ப clot ஆகாம இருக்கிறதுக்கு ஒரு clotting anti coagulation agent அவங்க தான் heparin. serotonin and histamines வந்து that is inflammatory reactions involve ஆகுறாங்க. அது next year நம்ம டீடைலா படிக்கும், இப்ப தேவையில்லை. Also involved the inflammatory, சொன்ன பாத்தீங்களா, இந்த செரோட்டோனின் ஹிஸ்டமைன் வந்து என்ன பண்ணுது, that helpful for inflammatory reactions. Inflammatory reactions that is one type of barrier. Inflammation, அதாவது redness, swelling, pain and followed by the ooze out of the pus, இப்படி கட்டி வந்து வீங்கிட்டு இருக்கும் பாருங்க ஒரு மாதிரி, that is called inflammation. இந்த substances தான் வந்து involved in the inflammatory reactions. ஏன் inflammatory reaction? அது one of the barrier, நம்ம disease வராம prevent பண்றதுக்கு ஒரு barrier. Inflammatory barrier, phagocytic barrier, anatomical barrier, lot of barriers are there. Next year you will study everything in detail. Okay, see simply that basophil secrete the heparin, histamine, serotonin. Okay, that substances secrete the chemical substances like these, and also involved, very important, and that is inflammatory reactions. These are involved in the inflammatory reactions, inflammatory reactions, basophil. And next is that's all over granulocytes. Next is the agranulocytes, absence of the granules. Who comes under the agranulocytes? Lymphocyte and monocyte. Lymphocyte and monocytes comes under the agranulocytes. Lymphocytes and monocytes, the two types of agranulocytes are there. See inga parunga, ivanga da vandu enadhu monocytes and lymphocytes. Parunga here the peripheral, there is no any granules found in the cytoplasm. Okay, lymphocyte and monocyte. Coming to the lymphocyte, 28% of the WBC. பாருங்க, A granulocyte la highest number வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா lymphocyte 28%. புரியுதுங்களா? See what is it, is a large round பாருங்க nucleus which is a large. Okay, and small amount of cytoplasm is there. Okay, in case of lymphocytes, listen, this one lymphocytes, nucleus is large, that majority of the this one, the majority of the cell which is occupied by the nucleus, very little amount of the cytoplasm is there. Okay, this is a lymphocyte, and then next is the monocyte. Lymphocyte and monocyte comes under the agranulocytes. And okay, lymphocyte, there are two types of lymphocytes are there, that is a B lymphocyte and T lymphocyte. B stands for bone marrow, T stands for thymus, that produced in the bone marrow, adan B cell. Thymus la mature ஆகிறது T cells னு சொல்லுவாங்க. இவங்க ரெண்டு பேருமே both B cells and T cells, the lymphocytes, both the B lymphocyte and T lymphocytes responsible for the immunity. B cell produce antibodies, B cell antibody produce பண்ணும், அதான் antigen வந்து that is deactivate, kills, thus we are prevented from the diseases. B cells produce antibodies and T cells வந்து cell mediated immunity. B cell ஒரு chemical substance, okay, ஒரு protein produce பண்ணும், that is called antibodies. That antibodies kill the pathogen. That T cell என்ன பண்ணுவாங்க, that is also immunity கொடுக்குறாங்க. அவங்க என்ன பண்ணுவாங்க, that directly involved in the killing of the that pathogens, that is called the cell mediated immunity. Cell directly involved in the killing. But B cell வந்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா not directly involved, அவங்க produce one chemical substance, a protein, that is called antibodies. That antibodies என்ன பண்ணுவாங்க, that kill the pathogens, kill the pathogens. Okay, that is the function of the immune system. So that lymphocytes, two types, that functions. And next is the monocyte, which is called macrophages. Monocyte also called macro, large. Macrophages, phages. Macrophage, they are phagocytic. பிடிச்சி சாப்பிடுவாங்க, அதான் phagocytic, அதான் phage, phagocytic in nature. Kidney shaped nucleus, see this is monocyte, or it is called macrophages. 1 to 3%. What is the ratio? It is found 1 to 3%. 1 to 3%. Phagocytic in nature. And see here, that cell, it is that nucleus is a kidney shaped. Nucleus is a kidney shaped. Okay, and see macrophages, I said it is phagocytic in nature, mainly that kill the that microbes, disease producing microbes that enters. Okay, it engulf so that our body is prevented from the attack of the diseases. And here the macrophages, that name varies depending upon the position. If the macrophage is found in the nervous system, that is called microglia. That is called microglia. Microglia. Okay. If it is found in the liver, that is called it is a Kupffer cells. It is called it is a Kupffer cells. If it is found in the liver, if it is in the pulmonary region, pulmonary means the lungs, that is called alveolar macrophages. Alveolar macrophages. This is the MCQ point of view important. Okay. Then types of macrophages, that is microglia, if it is found in the central nervous system, brain, liver, it is called Kupffer cells, and if it is pulmonary region, that is called alveoli, lungs, alveolar macrophages, alveolar macrophages, that monocytes. And next is the that the last formed element is the platelets or thrombocytes. Platelets, see, listen, the number is 1,50,000 to 3,50,000 per cubic millimeter, and 1,50,000 to 3,50,000 per cubic millimeter. It is, why it is called platelets? It is that it is like a plate and no nucleus, lack of nucleus. Okay, nucleus absent, that number, this is important for MCQ. And where it is produced, very important, most frequently asked question. It produced in the bone marrow, all the blood cells are produced in the bone marrow. This is also produced in the bone marrow, but a specialized cell, it is called megakaryocyte. That platelets are produced from the megakaryocytes present in the bone marrow. That is a non-nucleated, and mainly this platelets involved in the blood coagulation process. Okay, that's all. This session perfectly completed the formed elements. I hope you all enjoyed this session. We will continue later. Thank you. Next session. Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye-bye.